Hello and welcome to Wednesday's Talking Reds. Liverpool are back in the Champions League and boy is it a sight for sore eyes.
Well, I'll tell you what, that was worth the preparation we put into that game, wasn't it?
Well, to be honest, I have to give a shout out to Robbo and Craig on this one. They posted a picture of themselves doing it on Twitter. And I just thought, you know what, I might as well Sadio Mane their celebration because we're all so happy, aren't we? Yes. Liverpool are back in the Champions League, as I just said. And we managed to beat Paris Saint-Germain, the French champions, by 3-2. Now, Rob, it was another close one on the scoreboard, but it wasn't really that close on the pitch, was it? How impressed were you with how we played?
Very. Yeah, it was night and day. It was like the Spurs game, not all over again, but in similar disparity of scoreline that should have applied, that didn't apply. Mm-hmm. You look to the moment where Salah's goal gets disallowed and think if that's given, which it could have been, 3-1, they could have been on the back end of a 4 or 5-1. Yeah. What was interesting to me is when we were 2-0 up and absolutely cruising, they didn't look away back for them even then.
No.
They got lucky.
They weren't really, there was no urgency from them either. That was the thing that surprised me. Because, I mean, specifically in that period after half-time where they just scored just before half-time to make it to 2-1, you expect the first 15 minutes after half-time to be them coming out, putting us under pressure, trying to maybe elicit a mistake out of us and to try and pounce on it that way, try and impose their will. But there was none of that, was there?
No, and I'm not sure whether it's down to them or down to us. I mean, you know, I didn't enjoy the narrative after Tottenham was that Tottenham weren't very good. And again, they'll say, oh, PSG weren't, and we were guilty of ourselves here. We're saying maybe PSG should have been more at it. Were they allowed to be at it? I thought second half, our fitness and our intensity levels just did not drop, and they couldn't deal with that. I mean, I've watched some of the highlights back this morning, reminded myself of just how many chances we have second half. You know, really, really decent ones, and they just don't.
No, and I think all of it, for me, anyway, stemmed from the beginning, the first half, that fast start that we put on. There was that period after just about 7 or 8 minutes where we got 5 or 6 corners and really penned them in there.
Yeah.
Now, that didn't actually breed very many actual shots on goal, but what it did do is it really set the tone for the rest of the game amongst the crowd and amongst the players themselves. And I don't know what effect it might have had on the PSG guys. They probably expected that to a certain extent, but I really noticed the effect it had on us and the way we were able to be composed. And a lot of the time when they weren't pressing us, we weren't urgent on the ball, but there was no desperation. It was almost as if we knew exactly what our plan was and we were happy to stick to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing about that game is everyone knew what was going to happen, and it did happen. Liverpool were going to make a fast, intense start. Thomas Tuchel would have said to the boys, what they're going to do is make a fast, intense start, put you under an enormous amount of pressure, and that's exactly what we did. And they didn't really have any answer to it.
No.
But our intensity is, I mean, what seems to have changed slightly this season is we seem to be able to mix my words, sustain it a bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it did set the tone. That period where we just, well, they surrendered the flanks basically, didn't they? They're getting tactical about it for a minute.
We can get tactical about it for a minute.
They were narrow, and they surrendered the flanks, and Trent was our out ball, and he was able to get cross after cross, and so was Andy on the other side. And they created crowd scenes in the middle. But all they could do was deflect out, and the keeper actually does make a number of saves. So even though there weren't a huge amount of massive chances first half, there's a lot of half chances, and the keeper's hands are getting worked quite considerably.
It was interesting the way that they decided to set up because they like you say, Di Maria was quite narrow, but then occasionally Neymar would try and drift out, and he was early on at least. It looked like they were trying to stretch us across to cause our central midfielders to have to shuttle left to right, left to right.
Yes.
But then they kind of abandoned it, and I think part of that fell down by the fact that Neymar was completely uninterested in the game as soon as it went past him, which obviously is not going to help. But I feel like the central midfield was just all wrong. And when you consider they had a guy of the class of Lassana Diarra on the bench, now admittedly he's a little bit older than when he was at his peak in the Premier League, but you look at the way he plays, the way he looks to set tempos, and he can just kind of keep the ball ticking along. That was kind of what they were missing, because a lot of the time the front three weren't really receiving a lot of the ball unless they come really, really deep.
The strange thing is I saw the possession stats. I can't remember exactly what they were, but Paris have a lot more of the ball than you'd think. Especially I think at half-time they dominated the possession, even though to the naked eye they'd absolutely been blown away. It just shows you possession stats can be a lot of crap sometimes. It depends what kind of possession. Because Liverpool find out that we start without Naby Keita, so we are very much a true 4-3-3. Was there a bit of a 4-2-1-3 of sorts, aren't they? Which you wouldn't have thought they'd do to come to Anfield. So Tuchel obviously didn't spring a surprise. As you said, Neymar starts out left as a kind of left winger. Klopp said in his after-match comments, he hasn't seen Neymar play out wide left this season. So it was specially for us, that tactic. But they did surrender the midfield, as you say, effectively.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, we had a consistent outball in both Trent and Andy Robertson. And I've mentioned in previous weeks the fact that seems to be happening in a lot of games. They seem to be the spare men. And what that does is it puts a little bit more pressure on their delivery to be good. Now, last night, their delivery was very good. Yeah. I mean, that ball from Andy Robbo for Sturridge's goal was just delicious. It was one of those where he just basically had to position his head in the right position, in the right place, and it would just bounce off his head and go flying in. And that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, it was a lovely little headed goal, wasn't it? I think we're all made up. It was Daniel Sturridge as well. Do you know, in the sort of, what's the word? In the heat of the battle, I'd almost forgotten he was on the pitch because I couldn't have named that. We were just such a marauding team. In fact, it's hard to pick out star men from last night, I'd say, because it was such a team performance. It's very important that he got that goal, I felt, because we went into this season, I think, arguably an attacking player light in terms of we didn't get Fekir in. All our transfer business was fantastic, and then suddenly we got Daniel back, the guy who we palmed off on West Bromwich Albion. So everyone had all but surrendered his Liverpool career on his behalf. He had a really good pre-season, scored a number of goals. Cameo, is it the first game against West Ham? Yeah, he gets a goal on the opening day as a substitute. But to bring him in for a start in the Champions League, and first start for 6 years, I think, for him.
First ever Champions League start for Liverpool, which is ridiculous.
And he lasted 6 years ago for Chelsea and scored. It is ridiculous that it's taken that long. But I think this will be, I think he'll be a very satisfied man this morning, because he'll go, this is why I decided to not because let's put it this way, if you're Daniel Sturridge, in the summer you could have gone to your agent, they're not going to play me. They're not going to play me, they've moved on from me. Just get me a gig somewhere. Yeah. I think the agent might have even said that to him. I'll get you Bournemouth or something. And I think Sturridge has gone, do you know what? I'll knuckle down, I'll become a different Daniel Sturridge, the guy who isn't maybe the focal point. I'll become the Daniel Sturridge, the team player, the guy who's more than happy to be a squad player, and I'll bide my time. And when at the highest level, which it was last night, he proved himself.
And you know what? I was really pleased, not only because he got his goal, because that would have settled him down, it would have settled everyone else down. It kind of allows that conversation about how we look to potentially start rotating people, because essentially, if you'd said to me before the season started that we'd have to start with Sturridge against one of the best teams in Europe, which is what they have been fated to be, and they would have had won 5 out of 5 this season already, so it's hard to argue against that, I'd have been worried. Specifically about the idea of him playing against a team that has a lot of the ball, as you mentioned before, because his press is not quite the same. to put it mildly, as a Bobby Firmino press. But what he did, I mean, Jurgen Klopp was really happy with what he did. What he did was when the ball was in his area, that's when he was effective. He wasn't able to drift as far deep as Bobby does, but when the ball came to the final third, he was electric. And I was so pleased for him, and so was Jurgen Klopp at the end of the game. You could tell that as well.
Yeah, he was saying Daniel filled the spaces left and right, he held the ball up well. He's not Firmino, but he does give you something else. I mean, Firmino's underrated as what a 6-yard box predator he is, but Daniel Sturridge is definitely still a 6-yard box predator. Klopp described his position, I think was interesting, as a 9.5/10.
Yes.
Well, yeah, well, that's how he played pre-season. You know, there was no ambiguity about it. I think it almost has given Daniel a freedom, because I think it says, don't worry about the goals. Yeah. There's an interesting game pre-season where afterwards we'd been a bit flat in the first half. And Sturridge comes on, and Klopp went, we didn't start playing till Daniel came on. So, and I think that the notion of that has lifted Sturridge. I think he's gone, I'm actually the guy who knits this together. I don't have to be the guy who has a goal return to prove myself, and therefore freed from that pressure. He scored.
I mean, we'll look at exactly what Olivier Giroud's doing at Chelsea now, and how he's in the service of Eden Hazard. It's a very similar thing. And now, obviously, Daniel Sturridge has always been someone who prides himself and judges himself on goals, and I find that hard to believe that will really ever change. But if he can be still effective and score goals, then that's exactly what we want, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, talking about some of the other members of the front three, I kind of almost don't want to say this. Do we need to have a conversation about Mo not quite being at it yet? Now, I put this in the context of, obviously, we know the workload he's been under.
Yeah.
We still don't know exactly how healed his shoulder injury was when he started playing again. And we know that he started slowly last season. We also know Sadio Mane had a period last season where he looked a little bit off the sharpness for quite some time, and then he clicked back in. So even with all those caveats, how worried are you?
Not at all.
You're not worried at all?
No. I thought he was. I mean, he came in for stick against Spurs. I thought he was fine against Spurs. He is getting a lot more attention. There's no doubt about it.
That's true.
It's not an accident. Sometimes a few others are now finding space for themselves and doing better, because Mo emerged as, de facto best player in the world. That's a hell of a level he reached. I was talking to Paul Senior on the way back from the game on Saturday, and saying, do you know what? I'm not unhappy if Mo scores 20-25 this season. He doesn't have to score 45 again.
No.
I mean, it's not our God-given right to expect a player who went up to Messi's level last season to be Messi's level from here on. And you don't just get Messi. Mo is... we'd love him to turn out to be Messi, but I don't think that should be the expectation of him. He's contributed. If this was his first 5 games for Liverpool, we'd have gone, he's good. He's good. He's got a couple of goals. He's decent.
I think, and I 100% agree with all of that. The only issue that I worry about is how he's feeling about it. Now, I'm not talking about whether he did or didn't celebrate the winning goal, because we all know he did celebrate it. Yeah. You absolute bellends. Yeah. Stop trying to find stories where there are no stories. Anyway, we're going to move on past that. What I mean is that his general on-the-pitch demeanour. Now, one of the things that was noticeable about Spurs is that he has started getting a little bit frustrated when he feels the ball should come to him and he doesn't. And yes, that's generally a good thing. That's what we want out of a player. We want them all to want to be active. But the consequences of that, we've seen a little bit in that game where he didn't give off the ball when he should have. And he's kind of gone into a few blind alleys a little bit recently. And I was watching Neymar last night, and it's something that he does. In fact, the worst thing that he does for PSG attacks is when he just holds onto the ball for too long. And that's not something we ever saw out of him last season. So that's the only issue I really worry about. But again, I can't see that becoming a long-term thing. I think he just needs to score a few, settle down in himself, and we'll see the old Mo again. Yeah, it's also, these are Tottenham away, PSG at home. They're big games. They are big games. And he has scored in big games. Let's see what he does against Southampton at the weekend. Although, of course, if he doesn't score, the pressures, we're only going to ratchet up the pressure on him, aren't we? But, no. See, I don't want this to be us getting at Mo. I just want it to. It's just something that. It's when, like you say, there's so much attention on him, and then you end up fixating on him yourself. And
you mentioned Mane though a minute ago. If we could stay on this, but I thought he did hit a period where I thought, oh Jesus, his level has dropped. But it was probably only 4 or 5 games. Before then, he was getting unduly criticised, I thought, too quick. People were too much in a rush to criticise Mane last season. I thought, the whole thing is working here. We're winning 4-0. You don't think Mane was man of the match? That's fine. He contributed. Yes. Like I said, Mo may be getting that 30% more attention than Firmino and Mane is this season. That may be a factor here. And as Mane is our top scorer, as he gets another couple and the spotlight goes onto him, the preparations by opposition managers may become a bit more about Mane, and Mo may get a bit more space. Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. That was the whole beauty of having them both in the first place. That was the whole reason we wanted them both in the first place. Yeah. So we can't really complain when it comes out like that. That's true. I think it's more really a general conversation about decision making at the top of the pitch, because that's probably the difference between winning the last few games by 2-1 or 3-2 and winning them by 4-0 or 5-1 or what have you. But again, that's something that I'm pretty sure that they'll be able to iron out in training, no problems. Now, in the other group game, I should probably just flag up the fact that Red Star Belgrade and Napoli drew 0-0 in Belgrade, which is actually really good news for us. Yeah, I celebrated that. Like that. Because that now means when we do travel to Naples for our next game, if we can deprive them of a win, then that's almost puts us in a really strong position ahead of the 2 games against Red Star. Yeah, you can't underestimate. Well, I think both those results were absolutely fantastic for us last night. It puts us so on the front foot in that group. I think if we'd lost or drawn and Napoli had got that away win, you start to go, we're going to need a big win here somewhere. you can almost look at that group now and go, just draw the rest. Literally, no silly defeats, just draw the rest and you're through. Because, excuse me, 9 or 10 points normally does it. Mm-hmm. We're a third of the way there-ish already. And as you said, Napoli, I think the first and second could be decided to agree on the double header with Red Star, who are seen as the weakest team in the group. Okay, Napoli, it's not a disgraceful draw, and we may not win out there, but we've got a strong chance of doing them home and away.
Well, what that means is that if we do go out there and draw, then that means if Napoli want to match us, and they've then got to beat PSG at home as well. So it puts a lot of pressure on them. In such a group where there are so many teams who all believe that they have a chance, every single little blow that you can deal them is vital.
Yeah, and also, ultimately you want to win the group, although you take getting through at this, well, you'd have taken getting through beforehand. Actually, after last night's result, I'm not taking getting through, I want to win the group. Well, and it is only one game, but us and PSG were the best two teams in that group. So there are two deciders, in theory, between us. We've definitely won one of them.
Yeah, this is true. And I think it's easy to kind of get lost in the whole, well, is it really a benefit of being first rather than second? Because there are a lot of groups where the team that finishes second are the same quality as a group winner. But I think in terms of confidence, to say that, like I said earlier, PSG are lauded as one of the teams who are expected to win the Champions League, and we've beaten them, and we will, if we finish above them, that will be obviously confidence to us. It'll also be a message to the rest of Europe that last year wasn't a fluke, lads, we're still coming at you. And obviously, you think about coefficient, so maybe next season we'll have a little bit easier a ride when it comes to the draw. So all of these things can start to factor in together.
The odds are always favour that you get a better draw if you finish first. I haven't got the stats in front of me, but I look at this every bloody year.
There've been a few times where clubs have been, you can say, unlucky. Like, I mean, I believe that happened to Arsenal a couple of times where they could finish top and drew Barcelona or Bayern.
And then they got Bayern.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can be unlucky. But on balance, before the draw's made, blind, I'd rather take the first team's options than the second place team's options. But we're not necessarily either. At the end of the day, this was deemed the group of death, maybe the hardest draw in the whole draw. Getting through will be an achievement, whilst being able to sustain a title challenge. I mean, that's going to be the interesting thing down the line, is how much we'll look to try and finish first if we've got big league games. And you go, well, could we rest 2 or 3 here in Belgrade, you know?
I mean, the idea of potentially having the group put to bed in such a tough group does seem a little bit cavalier. But then when you look at the fact that the performances that this team are putting down, then we have to start rising our expectations a little bit, I think.
You can never put, I've heard a bit of that, putting the group to bed, but you can't put the group to bed. You can qualify before the final game, but you really can't usually. It's very, very rare to win the group before the final game.
And as I say, in a group this strong, it would be remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves with 1 win, but hey, what a win.
What a win it was. You may notice it's not quite an AM alcohol kind of a win. I think I'm probably going to save that for the knockout stages if we do get there.
Oh, what?
An AM alcohol. Do you not remember last year when we used to get boozed up in the morning after Liverpool won?
Ah, that. Oh, yes, yeah. You and Kopi got on the ale, didn't you? Yeah.
You were in it too once as well.
I didn't have a drink in the morning. I think I was drinking stunt. I don't do
Literally, there's video of you having a drink in the morning, Rob.
You find it.
I mean, it's literally probably one of the videos next to us.
It might be me at an airport. That's when I drink in the AM. Anyway, we digress.
Anyway, I want to also give a little bit of a notice to some of the other Champions League games that happen, because, you know, Champions League football makes me excited generally. And obviously, Tottenham didn't quite go well for them in San Siro. They managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, which obviously we were all absolutely torn up about.
Yeah, gutted.
And in the other game in the group, Barcelona, Lionel Messi put on another fantastic display with a quite effortless hat-trick. But I want to talk about the other goal, the goal by Ousmane Dembele. Did you see it?
No.
You haven't seen it?
What happened?
Oh, Jesus, Rob. Basically,
didn't even know the score in that game.
Like, it was the second goal, so it was actually quite a crucial goal. But he was about 5-10 yards inside the PSV half, with 2 defenders either sides of him, kind of jockeying for position. Does a beautiful drag back on flick, and he's away from them. Driving towards the penalty, he kind of drops his shoulder past another defender, and then beautifully curled ball with his right foot from about 25 yards, just past the keeper into the bottom corner. It was an absolute peach. Honestly, when you get a chance.
That's just bad news because I want us to sign him.
I mean,
and he's not going anywhere.
No, he's not. That was kind of why I wanted to bring it up, because that little shard of light that we had potentially snapping him away is gone, because Barcelona are now getting the full worth out of him. And again, when I was looking at them last night, and they had him and Coutinho and Suarez, and it's like, sliding doors, another life.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think Klopp worked quite hard to get Dembele, and I wouldn't be surprised if we really had a go at Barcelona this summer to tempt them. And we had the option because they're paying Coutinho in instalments, and you'd had a very poor opening period for Barca. But then there was a lot of talk about Arsenal coming into the picture, and I thought, not Arsenal getting it. But as you say, if he continues at this rate and he doesn't prove injury prone again, then
I think he's going to be gone for at least the next couple of years. But I mean,
he's not.
There's a part of me that's kind of, I'm glad that he's performing well, because I always thought he was going to be a good player. I'd prefer him to be performing well in red, but I guess I'll have to take it.
I don't like I mean, we think of ourselves very much as a re-established Champions League team now, and I think we've all got maybe their proof vain designs on winning it again. I don't like to see Barcelona with a front four the way you've just described it. That's not healthy at all.
That is a very good point. If we do end up drawing them, I could end up eating all of those words that I just said out there. Yeah. Something else that happened in the world of Liverpool that I probably want to make a mention to, which isn't quite as positive. Unfortunately, former Liverpool defender Stephen Darby announced that he had to retire from football immediately. He's been diagnosed with motor neuron disease. He's only 29 years old, which is an absolute shame. He didn't make a massive effect at Liverpool. I believe he only made 2 starts, although one of them was in the Champions League. But he went on to play with distinction at Bradford City, captaining them in their League Cup run to the final with defeats over Arsenal.
He played under Rafa briefly.
He did.
Yeah.
He did play under Rafa briefly. It was around 2007, 2008 time he was in. But I mean, obviously, it's a shame anyone has to end a career like that. But I just wanted to put the message out there that we all here congratulate him on his career and wish him well in his recovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, on some slightly lighter news, there's some more stuff coming out around the football on the Anfield wrap. Now, obviously, there was a game last night, so all of the game-related shows are going to be coming out. The Pink was out last night. We had the post-match pint. We're going to have review shows coming up, all looking deeper into all the tactical analysis from last night's game, once everyone's kind of shaken the hangover off and get a chance to look at things properly. So we're going to have lots more chance to delve over the game last night, and then obviously coming up in the week we're going to be building up to another game. See if we can make it 7 out of 7, Rob, again.
The Southampton game frightens the life out of me. It's such a banker, isn't it? I watched them the other night. They started, they looked lively, Southampton, but then they let Brighton back into it.
Well, I think I've kind of let go of the idea that Danny Ings is probably going to score. I think that's going to happen.
Just let him step up and get that out of the way.
Yeah. I would be well up for the idea of just say, go on, Danny, you just get that out of the way, lad, and then we'll just carry on from there.
No, he doesn't get to play, does he? Because he's on loan technically.
Oh, of course, he's still technically on loan.
Get in.
Whew.
Yeah.
Well spotted, detective.
Yeah. That's what I'm here for.
Is that really what you're
No,
here
it's
for?
not what I'm here for.
I was going to say, because if that's what you're here for, then
sounded good.
We waited a long time to get that kind of nugget. Right, okay, we should probably wrap this up now. You guys were going to go back and watch the highlights of the game, and I don't blame you. I'm probably going to do the same thing. Rob, you're probably going to do the same thing as well, aren't you?
Over and over again.
And yeah, now we're getting closer to the PM. There might be a few drinks alongside as well. So I hope you're enjoying your day, Reds. I know we too are, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Up the Reds.
Tokyo Time is sponsoring Talking Reds for Wednesdays for the foreseeable future, which were made up about. They're a Liverpool company. They're trying to do things differently. They're trying to do things better, a bit like the Anfield wrap. And so they've set up only recently, but already got a lot of traction for kind of what they want to do. They helped us out in America. They gave us hats to wear over there, and very much needed. They were in that bacon sun next to the pitch watching the Liverpool boys train. So yeah, since then they've come in. They've asked us about doing something a little bit more formal. So that's what we're going to do. So they're going to be sponsoring Wednesdays on the Talking Reds for the foreseeable future. If you're into your baseball caps, you're into your street style, or you know anyone else who is, or you're looking for presents to buy for people, do check out their website. It's tokyotime.co.uk, or follow them on Instagram. They've got loads of styles, something for everyone, and the fit is really, really good. So yeah, cheers to the boys for supporting us. They're supporting us, so do try and support them, tokyotime.co.uk.